in the Lord, and we pray that all unity may one day be restored, and they'll know we are Christians by our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand, we will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand, and together we'll spread the news that God is in our land. They'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Hello, we are Christians by our love. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. And we'll guard each one's dignity and save each one's right. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. Good morning. Nice to see those of you who are here getting ready for the next session. We are Instruments of Peace. Don and Ann Jenkins, I should say Ann and Don Jenkins. She's on the harp, which is the star of most of our engagements. Everybody loves the harp. So, we're going to be introduced here shortly by Andy. One of the things that we're wanting to make sure we convey is that everyone should feel free to sing along. The words are found in the so you're fine. And what we just did was, they'll know we are Christians by our love. And the next song we'd like to do is one that was introduced to you last evening for those of you who were here for the worship service. It was the last piece that the jazz trio did, and it's found in that wonderful trove of music known as the New Century Hymnal. It's a Philippine song, and Pastor Ray introduced to us. Ann Edson introduced it from Kirkland, and it's "Oh God in Heaven" in your hymn books, 279. I believe, yes, 279, "Oh God in Heaven." And we love this, particularly my wife has a wonderful minor quality to grace to invite us, peace to unite us, for God in heaven, order of love. Redeemer, help us remember your pain and passion, your resurrection, your love tomorrow, your love tomorrow. Jesus, Redeemer, Savior, Amen. Spirit unending, divine us your blessing, strength for the weary, help for the needy, hope for the scornful, peace for the mournful, Spirit of liberty, comfort and God. How many of you who are here have sung that song before and found it in a wonderful song? Well, as I say, we've recently discovered it and loved it. And we like, part of our mission here, given us by Kathy, is to introduce songs that people can sing, but also songs that represent that great diversity that we have in our faith and in our community. So, we will now move on even beyond that to a song called Out Beyond. That's in your song sheets, and it's on page number 5. Okay. And these are the words of Rumi. How many of you have heard of Rumi? Ah, good. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. The words of Rumi, set to music by Eric Odell, a local fellow who writes beautiful music. We love this one. Eric Odell wrote the music. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. One more time. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Next section. A field of love, a field of forgiveness, a peace that passeth understanding. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Let's go again. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. A field of love, a field of forgiveness, a peace that passes understanding. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. There's a field. I'll meet you there.
Can I introduce you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
There it is. Okay. We want to open those doors so that the people out there realize we want them in here. Can somebody open the doors? Yeah, that'd be awesome. The whole idea of open doors, remember? We're doing the whole door thing. Yeah, did I hear somebody shouting at me? Okay, no shouting. Unless it's my friends and family. Listen, friends, I want to introduce properly Don and Ann Jenkins, who are the musicians known as instruments of peace. We've been listening to them and singing with them. You know, I don't know if it's because we're meeting in a sanctuary, but some of us are getting sanctuary face. Do you know what that looks like? But we do worship here. We just had morning worship. It was awesome, right? But you don't need to have sanctuary face all the time. Try and do my face for a change. Yeah! That one, you know? Yeah! See? Any kind of other face that says, look at this friendly face. This is a wake face. Yes. Because we're here, we're gathered as a family, and I realize that's both good and bad. Family, you know, they're the ones who tell the stories about when you were a baby, la la la, yeah. But we are gathered here as friends and family, so we don't want sanctuary face all the time. We want smiley, happy face, and friendly face, and interested face. This is important to me, kind of faces. So I invite you to engage in music and with each other, and try not to just sit there. Now, I'm from the dry side, and on the dry side, we don't have a lot of clouds and rain and green. We have a lot more sunshine than you. Neener, neener. But you have the ability to grow mushrooms almost anywhere. And I'm just saying, this sanctuary is not the place to grow like a mushroom. Okay, good. Let's be clear about that. Also want to mention our art. Now, this theme that you see of the open doors and welcome home, annual meeting planning committee, we worked on our ideas quite a bit and had fun and argued and had some more fun and had some more words. And Adrienne Banks created our image of open doors and the welcome home. And I want you to thank her when you see her. Is she around right now? Adrienne? Adrienne. Darn it. Well, when she does pop in, I'm going to embarrass her and all that stuff. And say, oh, Adrienne, well done. Okay? We're going to do that too. Right now, we have 5 minutes. Now remember, no more sanctuary face, and open your mouths and sing. Okay.
Thank you, Andy. So, how many of you recall Pete Seeger? Everyone here, I know Pete Seeger, that wonderful gentleman who passed away recently, but who lived so well, so richly, and left us such a legacy. One of his later songs, I think he actually finished it when he was 92, is God's Counting on Me. He wrote that with Lori Wyatt, and I'd like to teach it to those of you who don't know it, and encourage everyone who does know it to sing along, because that's what he meant for that song to be all about, is joining together in music of things that he believed in. And he believed in a lot of the right things, in my opinion. So Pete Seeger, God's Counting on Me. Down in your handouts. When we look and can see things are not what they should be, God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Repeat that line. When we look and can see things are not what they should be, God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Now this is the chorus, so I'll sing it through and we'll do it again. Open will all pull through. Open will all pull through. Open will all pull through. Yeah, you can try it. Open will all pull through. Open will all pull through. Open will all pull through. Yeah, you. On to the next verse. It's time to turn things around. Trickle up, not trickle down. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. It's time to turn things around. Trickle up, not trickle down. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. I don't feel like harmony. Just harmony. People love harmony. So we've got some faces out here. So the chorus. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. That's the basics, okay. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. There's a hard part, but you can have to find it. Okay. Moving on to the next verse. I think the drill makes me good. Okay, read the chorus one more time. And harmonies are about you have to be the ones that beat like. Okay. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. And winds will be drill. Turns to spill. Baby spill. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. And winds will be drill. Turns to spill. Baby spill. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. Many wrong things we have made. Change the course, don't be afraid. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Many wrong turns we have made. Change the course, don't be afraid. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. There's big problems to solve. Let's get everyone involved. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. There's big problems to be solved. Let's get everyone involved. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. What we do now, you and me, will affect eternity. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. What we do now, you and me, will affect eternity. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. When we sing with your hope, we can never give up hope. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. When we sing with your hope, we can never give up hope. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Yeah. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Yeah.
That's Don and Ann Jenkins, who are known as Instruments of Peace. Good morning, everybody. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and the sun shining again. Okay, that's something we never expect when we come over here from the dry side. You know, if you can't make jokes at each other's expense in the family, where can you? Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you, Dennis. He's the one at the family dinner table that gets whacked by a brother or a sister. We're all just jealous we didn't think of it. Good morning, it's Plenary Session 3. And I want to begin by asking us, all of us here together, to thank people, especially as it says in our agendas. I want us to recognize and thank the people who work for us and with us. So I'm going to ask you to come on forward, do that embarrassing public thing where you all stand up here together. So Arlene, I know you're back there. Time to come on up. As executive administrator of our conference, I want you to thank Arlene Hobson. Woo!
Together. Thanks for coming.
All right, now, I also, so she doesn't have to stand up here all alone. Michelle, I know you're hiding. Come on up, Michelle Doherty, accounting manager. You'll hear a little bit more later from our treasurer of the conference about what a huge amount of work Michelle has put in this year, but just trust me, she's put in a huge amount of work this year. And really, it seems kind of anticlimactic to say, oh, and let's not forget our conference minister. Come on up, Mark! Now, I'm pretty sure somewhere it says you shouldn't brag, that it's a sin or something. But we get to brag about our camps. So come on up, Deej Nelson. Come on up, Mark Boyd, because we have the best camps. It's not that we do thankless jobs. I hope you hear our thanks more than just at annual meeting. But it's that all of us, and especially you, who work on our behalf and who work beyond, you know, the parameters of job descriptions and hours, yada, 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 we know, or we want you to know, how much we treasure each of you individually, but also because you love this Pacific Northwest Conference and serve it so profoundly and with such devotion. So our thanks for the other 364 days of the year that you give and give and give. Yes? Now you can do it. Now you can do it. Guys, yeah, guess what? Get back up here. We're going to take reports from our two wonderful managing directors. I'm like, yeah, our camp guys, but they actually have titles, managing directors. So here they are.
Good morning. It's good to see all those non-church smiles. That's just wonderful. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Deej Nelson. I'm the managing director at Pilgrim Firs. I've been there for about 12 years now, and I'm a member at Suquamish Church.
And my name is Mark Boyd, and I'm the Managing Director at Camp in Sidson, also a member of Veradale, and I've been there 3 years. I know, it doesn't seem like 3 years, doesn't it?
It goes fast.
Yes. Andy talked about the sanctuary faces. So one of the things I wanted to do is I want to say hello again, and I want to hear a camp hello back. So, hello. Now that's a camp hello. I like that. Yes.
Now we're awake. So one of the things that we talk about is whose camp is it? And, you know, oftentimes people come up to us and say, how are things at your camp? But it's not my camp.
It's not our camp. It's your camp. And I think that's really important to hold that up, because it is your camp. We get to be there, and thank you for that. But it's yours. And we want to invite you all the time to come to your other home camp.
And I oftentimes refer to that as the lake house. So come on out and use your lake house.
You have 2 of them.
You got 2 of them. That's all right. That's right. So a little bit of history, because we're talking about home, and it's good to know what the family has done. Pilgrim Furs was purchased in 1956 and opened in 1957. And as a matter of fact, I talked to somebody just this morning that was one of the participants at camp 2 weeks after it opened. Thank you for being there, Kathy. And we'd like you to help us out. And you may have noticed as you've gone past our tables downstairs that there are a lot of photos out there, and a lot of those photos need names on the back. We want to remember who those people were that helped build the camp and who were there early on. So if you know when and when the photos were taken and who they are, please do let us know.
Camp in Sidson was opened in 36, 37. It was really cold, but we opened it up anyway, and it has grown incredibly since then. And again, without the help of the churches, the camps wouldn't be there. It was the volunteers who came and put time and energy and money into those camps, because it's yours. So, some of the things that are happening at camps. At Insidson, there's a number of great things happening, and in addition to all the camps that you get to come to, last year we remodeled the girls' bathhouse, and yes, Dennis Hall and Jolanth, the boys will be done this year, so you don't have to sneak into the girls again. So,
about that,
yes, so that's one of the things that's happening. We're remodeling the other side. We're adding a floating dock in the swim area for people to be able to swim out to and back. Yes. We also added some trail lights up to a couple of the lodges, the lodge across the highway, so at night, especially in the winter, it's great for folks to do that. Those are some of the things that we've done, but we need some of your help to come on out to the work camps that we've got going on. There's lots of projects happening there. You want to talk a little bit about Pilgrim Furs?
Sure, and the same goes with Pilgrim Furs. We not only do we have the work camp, but we've actually had several groups that have come out and just planned other times with us and come out in particular to work on the Peace Garden. It's a huge project, and we can use all the help we can get on that. And so please do set up your private work camp with that if you want. I've been working ever since I got to Pilgrim Furs to do more with outdoor seating, because we are outdoor ministries. And so we've added quite a few things there. We added a bunch of new picnic tables last year. We've added a couple of decks out there, and if you haven't seen those, you definitely should come and see them. Also, the environmental justice trainings do take place at Pilgrim Furs, and now we're in the process of setting one up for Sidson as well and nationwide, so please do participate in those. And just to let you know, you may start hearing some rumors and things about a capital campaign, and that is something that we are looking into. There's some improvements that we want to make on both sites, and there's not a lot of information out on that yet, but just know that that's coming, and we're planning to do a lot with that.
Absolutely. One of the things that we want to look at with the capital campaign is, for those folks who have been at Insidson, you know that most of our property is on the other side of the road, but we don't have good access to that. And people don't understand what speed limits are, and they drive too fast. Just last week, I watched an older woman in a walker try to cross that highway, and it terrified me. One of the things we want to do with the capital campaign is get a better way to cross that highway. We are looking into a tunnel to do that. And we would be able to increase the ability to use that other side of it. And that's one of the things in the capital campaign. The brochures, those of you who've had your brochures mailed to you, I know you're excited, and you've probably already registered for camp, and if you haven't, why haven't you? Also, on those brochures, you're going to see something on there called the gratitude rate. Let me talk about that real quickly, and you can ask me more questions later. The gratitude rate is the rate that you've been paying to come to camp for many years, is the rate that you folks get because it's your camp. but honestly, it doesn't cover the actual cost. And the other groups that come to camp, the non-UCC groups, those are the ones who have been our anchors and helped us to keep those camps going because they pay that rate. However, they're nonprofits also, because as a nonprofit, we can only have nonprofits. And the nonprofit world, as we know, is becoming smaller, and they're not able to do as many things. And we don't want to rely on that anchor. So we're giving you an opportunity to help out. On there's the thing called the gratitude rate. That gratitude rate is the difference between what it would actually cost to come to camp. And if you want to pay either one of them, you're welcome to do that. No one's going to call and ask you which one you did. You're welcome to do that. You're also welcome to pay in between. So that's what the gratitude rate is, real briefly. Again, I can talk more about that later because I like to talk. Thanks, Andy.
So really quickly, one of the things we forgot to ask when we first came up here, how many of you have been to camp, one or the other, or someplace else? All right, so I want you people, keep your hands up for a second. Look at the people who don't have their hands up. Bring them to camp.
Absolutely. It's important to know that there's many opportunities to come to camp. A lot of times when we go visit churches, folks say, well, we're really glad you're here, but we don't have any kids. Or my other favorite one is, I went to camp a long time ago. So my response is, well, then come back. It's still there. You can come to camp regardless of your age, regardless of your abilities. If you want to get to camp, we want you there. There are many ways to get there. There are many things to do there. You don't have to come to camp and spend the night in a cabin with junior high kids.
But it's fun.
But you can, yes. But you can also come to camp and here's a really cool thing, you can come to camp for free. There's a couple of ways to do that. You can offer to counsel. We love, need, and desire to have clergy at camps. And I think there's a couple of clergy out here. We also you can come to camp as work camp, and we will pay you to eat. We'll pay you with food and room and board, and then we might have a project or two for you to help out with. But you're welcome to do those kinds of things. If you're coming by the camp and you're driving by the camp, stop by. Please give us a call ahead of time so we know you're coming, but it's your camp. Come to camp. There are many different ways to do it. Come as a camp grandpa or a grandma. We're looking for those. We're always looking for counselors and directors. It's your camp. Come on home.
Let us know you're available.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now, after that, I have a small challenge to make. It does involve Mike Denton. Susan and Tara, could you guys come up here for a second? Susan or Tara? So I feel that there was a very important color missing in the Color the Beard challenge. And any of you who know me well know that this would be my favorite color. And so I'm going to challenge the other colors by putting $100 down on pink.
Thank you.
Boy, my job as acting moderator sure is easy. Nobody's asking me to dye anything. Oh. That was so dumb. Would the co-chairs of Church Development Committee please come up? There's Susan again, and Dave, I know you're there. This is not on your agenda. This is a surprise, and a happy surprise. Come on up, Dave. Are the members of New Beginnings here? Yes. Yes, they need to come up too. In a lengthy process, right?
That's
Fairly
correct.
lengthy process.
Fairly lengthy, most patient group and congregation we've ever met.
New Beginnings Samoan of Lacey, Washington, am I right? Yes? Is here. Our representatives are here today, and Dave and Susan are going to explain a little bit about how or what it takes to become a part of this crazy family we call the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ. Dave?
Hi, I'm Dave Parker with Church Development, and standing next to me is Pastor Allen, and beyond him is Thomas Devaney. And what I want you all to know is that these good people have been working with church development for at least a year to become affiliated with UCC. This is truly dedication. This is truly above and beyond. At our last meeting, I walked in and we're kind of meeting ad hoc. You know, Dan was our chairman. We had a key to the building. We're meeting, but we don't have all the keys, and so we're kind of out in the foyer, and who's there? Pastor Allen, completely by surprise. Well, what's happening? They are really interested in joining us because they want to covenant with this larger body. They want to be part of what we are. We've heard so many wonderful things about them. We've seen so many things, wonderful things about them. We have on CDC a fairly extensive checklist for how you become a member, an affiliation with UCC. They have gone through this completely, finished it off totally, and we're very happy to welcome them today to affiliation with UCC. New Beginnings, Pastor Allen and Thomas. Thank you. Do you have anything you want to say again?
What we'd like to do now is give you some little gifts to take back to your community. Oh dear, what to do with the match? Jesus said, "Be a light on a hill. Do not put your light under a bushel, but shine brightly." Share the love of God fearlessly. Glow brightly where you are. Wait.
I suspect this is just a technicality, but we do need to have a vote on
Good thinking.
bringing this congregation into the United Church of Christ. So if we could get a motion and a second and an opportunity for debate. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that New Beginnings Samoan become an affiliated congregation of the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ. Anybody have anything they want to say about that? So all those in favor, please raise your voting cards.
That was easy.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay.
Motion passes.
Motion passed.
Welcome.
Susan is bringing you a box full of salt that you may never lose your flavor, and that you may be a seasoning of love and justice wherever you are. And lastly, we present you the living word, the word which we share, the word which is our guide, in day and in night, in light and in dark. Again, let us welcome these, our new brothers and sisters in Christ. Would you like to say a word? He's going to use that mic.
Thank you. Well, Dave told me this morning he's going to introduce us. I told him it's fine as long as it don't make me dance. Because y'all know how we do it. Back in it out. But it is a blessing working together with Dave and the committee throughout the year. And I wouldn't forget about Dan Stern and Becky, who started this process from the beginning. And I believe you retired I'll never forget about you, brother. It's good to see you today. I was expecting to see you because you started this process, and I just want to say thank you very much for being there for us and for Dave and the committee to continue with the process. It's a blessing to us. I just want to share a little story before I close it down why we choose to join you guys. For the past 3 years, we lost two of our young ones, 17 years old and 18-year-old. One was killed and left on the road. The members of my youth, they go to my church, and we try to ask the city and for help, for give us a little shack or something to bring our youth together to try to keep their time, make things for their time to occupy. So these things won't happen again to our young ones. So as we heard of the UCC and plus some of the people that did some researches for us, and God has answered our prayers, and I believe that this is the answer for us, especially with our youth. We have a lot of kids in our church, and members of our church, there's a lot of kids and a lot of youth, and I'm looking out for them. So we are ready to work with you shoulder to shoulder and do whatever the boss said. Amen? Because you're the boss. I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And on behalf of the New Beginning Church, God bless you all for everything that you've done for us. Thank you for the gifts. We appreciate it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay. On behalf of nominations, is Debbie here? Debbie, there she is, right towards the front. Debbie's going to just give you a few words about the slate of nominations that you should be able to find in your packets. I realize there's a lot of stuff in there. Dig. It's in there somewhere.
It actually is like a 3-page stapled item. And also, if you can pull out, there's a 1-page description of what our committees are and what we do. My name is Debbie Baden. I'm the co-chair of the Ministry Resources Committee. I'm a member at Plymouth Congregational UCC in Seattle. And I am proud to say that I've been lucky all these last 3 years, I have to take a personal aside, to have worked with Carol Stanley and Bill Stanley, who are not here today because they're in the process of moving to North Carolina. And I send their greetings to all of you. And I want to invite anybody who've known Carol and Bill over the years to please write them a note or an email. Their current address, they'll be back here for a month till like mid-May. And then they're moving permanently to North Carolina, to the Charlotte area, to be close to their grandchildren and their sons who are both out there. So I would invite you all to thank them via note or email or phone call. They should be back in the Seattle area, I think, in another week or so. But I do miss them here at our meeting, and I want to acknowledge Carol's contributions to the Ministry Resources Committee, Committee on Ministry, and all the very many committees that she and Bill have both served here in the conference over the years. And I definitely know they would appreciate any well wishes. They were very, very sorry to miss our meeting. Anyway, if we turn to the nominating slate, I'm presenting this as the co-chair of the committee. As you know, I can see from looking at the committee, we do have a few spaces that are empty. I will be open to taking nominated people's names, but please ask the person first before you say something to me. We will be voting on this slate later on today at their last plenary session when we install members of the committees. And I want to call out that We've had some very hardworking chair people that are retiring or off the committees as of this year. I know last night we talked to, or Mike recognized Edie Lackland, who is the Stewardship Committee Chair, who's stepping down. I'd like to also recognize Reverend Ed Evans, who has been the chair of the Global Ministry Committee for many years. Thank you, Ed, so much. He's sitting right down here. Thank you. He's done a phenomenal job with that committee. If you look through the pages, we do have a few empty spaces. Please feel free to talk to me. I have a list of people already. And also next year we're going to be having the annual meeting in Spokane. And so, yep. And so we are looking for some more members for the annual meeting planning committee. And I have a few people from Westminster that has already talked to me, contacted me, so we have a couple more names. But that's a very important committee, as anybody here can tell you that have worked on this annual meeting. And I want to thank that committee that's currently in place now, that's doing this weekend, for all their hard work. And anyway, that's pretty much what I have. This is just presenting what we have on our slate. And please feel free to give me just catch me, or have somebody talk to me over the weekend. I will be here all day. Thank you.
Now what? This is called, this little table of miscreants over here are known as the Geeks for Jesus. But quietly under my breath, I'm saying dorks for Jesus. Get that out of there. Okay, so we are whipping through our agenda this morning. Are you impressed? You should be. Yes, you should be. We have 3 hearings that have been, the information has been put in your packets. They are a part of the annual meeting report. We will have hearings on them as soon as we transition out of this plenary. And just quickly, to give you a sense of what you're up for, I'm asking those who have, Wendy and Edie or Edie, I'm not sure which, will briefly step up and speak to the budget, because some of you, how many of us know that the hearing we are committed to attending is listed on the envelope, the white envelope you received. And I just tear mine off and stick it in here. If you don't have that information, you could probably go get it from Arlene. But I know I'm going to hearing number 1, and I'm sure somehow you'll find out what hearing you're going to go to. Oh, it's on your name tag? Yeah. Oh, cool. Like I said yesterday, learning as we go. There it is. And here I thought it was just a typo. So now you know your hearing number, but I would like just a brief explanation for each of these hearings. So about the living wage resolution, who is going to speak to that? Brandon? Was that going to be you? Brandon? Brandon? Jen? Jen. Okay. Come on up. Thank you.
Good morning. So I'm Jen Hagedorn, and I'm the Social Justice Liaison at Plymouth Church, and I'm going to be introducing this resolution for y'all. So it was during orientation week of the Justice Leadership Program last year that I realized the power of faith voices on issues of economic justice. It was the beginning of that journey that brought me before you here today, and as I have learned, I need to know how to speak about my own journey in order to ask you all to join with me. My fellow interns and I showed up for this event called an action, having absolutely no idea what we were getting ourselves into. We found ourselves marching with a crowd of hundreds of workers, union leaders, community, and faith folks to the headquarters of Alaska Airlines in SeaTac. We were there demanding living wages and better protections on the job. Along the march, I started talking to some of the people who worked at SeaTac and the organizers of the march. I heard stories of people working long hours and still going to food banks to be able to feed their families. I heard about the lack of safety equipment that they needed to clean and fuel the planes. I heard about the canceled shifts and other ways that employers found to cut paychecks. The more I heard, the more angry I became. This was so far from any injustice that I had experienced in my life, and yet I had probably walked by many of these workers on my way to and from flights. By the time we reached the headquarters of Alaska Airlines, I wanted answers. A delegation went forward and knocked on the door. An executive came down to speak with us, and as he looked out over the sea of people, you could see his eyes settled on the line of faith leaders with their collars and all, and the line of workers who were right in front of him. And he looked a little surprised. A few of the workers spoke about what they had experienced working at the airport, and then the faith leaders spoke about the moral obligation to provide for workers, especially in the face of a record profit quarter. The executive's voice shook as he responded, and I remember wondering whether it was the size of the crowd or whether it was perhaps the moral voice that was asking him to make these changes. Not only was this a powerful statement to the executive, but many of the workers told me that day and at future actions that standing with members of the faith community had given them courage and strength that they didn't know that they had. As Christian brothers and sisters, we are called to have a different relationship with money than our capitalist society dictates. These verses and acts that are written at the top of your resolution demonstrate the way that the early church set this example. By everyone giving what they could to those who were most in need, they ensured that everyone had enough. This individual accountability to each other is based on the belief that we are all children of God, deserving of justice and capable of acting justly. Economic fairness at the systemic level is built into the ethics of our faith tradition as well. In Hebrew tradition, debts were forgiven and slaves were set free every 7 years. In the year of Jubilee, which came every 50 years, all the land was equitably redistributed. This radical restructuring of a society prevents against the accumulation of enormous wealth and is based on the understanding that the land and the people ultimately belong to God. And yet, when we open our eyes and hearts, we see the way that our society is very different from this vision of God's kingdom and is moving further away from it at rapid speed. Economic inequality has been growing ever wider in the last 30 years and has degraded the health, democracy, and economic prosperity of our nation. Wages have not kept pace with rates of productivity or inflation, decreasing the ability of individuals or families to be able to buy the basic essentials. In fact, if wages had kept pace with these rates, our national minimum wage would be $21.72 an hour. And we know that while this economic divide has touched many of our lives, low-wage jobs are disproportionately done by women and people of color, strengthening the white patriarchal hierarchy that exists in our country. But as church members, we don't need to hear the statistics to know the reality. Many of our UCC congregations work tirelessly to fill this ever-growing gap between what people need to survive and what they're able to provide for themselves, even while working. We do this through giving to food banks, providing temporary housing, and serving meals. And while this is important and holy work, we know that we are only alleviating the symptoms of a broken system. The concept of a living wage is about more than a specific dollar amount. It is about supporting wage and housing and other policies that create affordable access to basic human necessities. In adopting this living wage resolution, we would be agreeing to educate ourselves about living wage and economic inequality in the local church setting. We would be agreeing to engage in these issues by listening to workers and walking with them towards a living wage future in our communities, and to advocate for the creation of living wage opportunities with elected representatives and business leaders. We would be calling on each of the local churches to consider adopting the Church Council of Greater Seattle's living wage principles, which this resolution is built on. And we would know that adopting this resolution would mean that we would be back here at annual meeting 2015 looking at ourselves and each other and asking, so what have we done? As Christians, our holy texts give us an alternative to the economic system that we see holding our brothers and sisters in poverty. We are called to be and create the communities that cancel debts and turn tables. We are called to radically share because we believe in God's great abundance. And we are called to stand with those who are being exploited for profits, to amplify the voices of those who have been drowned out. So it is with great joy that I present this living wage resolution to the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ. Thank you.
I was reminded of another young woman who stood up one day and said, "My soul magnifies the Lord." So Wendy, you want to come up and talk briefly about our budget?
Hi, I'm Wendy Blight. I'm a member at Alki UCC, and I'm the treasurer of the conference this year. I can be much more brief, actually, than Jen, and how eloquent was she? Wow, that's impressive. A young adult that can do that. There's the future. So at the budget hearing, we will be discussing the proposed budget that is now a full year. We've been working on a short 5-month budget in order to establish a new fiscal year for the conference, and so the budget begins June of this year and goes until May of 2015. We'll be going over the issues that arose as we tried to put this budget together, and how we resolved those. One of the highlights of this year's budget is the inclusion of a salary and benefits and all the related expenses for the new position of Coordinator of Program Development and Implementation. I'm guessing we may come up with some shorter thing we're going to how we're going to refer to that person. But at any rate, we're quite excited about this position, and the budget does include the costs of that new person being with us. So if you're assigned to this hearing, I hope you will come. I hope you'll show up. I hope you will learn about how your OCWM dollars are put to good use in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. Thanks very much. I didn't know I was supposed to also mention right now. Oh, wait. Oh. I didn't bring what I was. You know, Shannon, I need your help, because I was sitting next to you, and next to me was a blue folder kind of thing. Yes, and I was going to read from that. Okay, sorry. So a year ago, at last year's annual meeting, you voted, thanks so much, to have us conduct a management review of the conference finances. This is similar to an audit, a full audit of financial records, but is more limited in scope, and but does go over all of our financial accounts. And you gave us 2 years to complete that management review. But I'm happy to report, and Mike mentioned it last night, that review has been completed. And the Board of Directors accepted the report yesterday at their meeting. let's see, what else I want to say about that. The essence of the report is one paragraph that I'll read to you. This is directly from the report, and it says, based on our review, and this is Watson and McDonald, who were the auditors. Based on our review, we are not aware of any material modifications that should be made to the accompanying financial statements in order for them to be in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So we got a clean bill of health on all of our financials. I'll mention the 3 issues that sort of rose to the top that we needed to have looked at and that the auditors helped us with. First of all, the accounting for our CDC loans to local churches. We didn't have great records in terms of accounting for those loans that we had out, the interest we were charging or not, and how long those loans had to be repaid. And so all of those were reviewed, and they are now part of our financial records. The second thing was to determine the original value of all of our fixed assets, most of those being the camps, both the land and the buildings at the camp. And as was mentioned in the reports, many of our buildings were built by volunteers. And so materials were purchased and people got together and put those buildings together. And so we know that, you know, it's not quite the same as when we may plan to put up a building, which we kind of did later on, and you have better, you know, records of what it cost. So there was a lot of digging that had to happen to find deeds of trust on land that had been given or purchased in like 1930. There was a lot of work that both the camp managers and Michelle Doherty had to do to put all of these records together, but we now have on our financial records a good assessment of what all of those fixed assets are valued at, and we've done the depreciation that goes along with the accounting for those. And the third thing was accounting for our permanently restricted and temporarily restricted endowment funds. We have several endowments, and the rules have changed in the last several years in regard to how you account for endowments. Some of us who do accounting, like Gary, I see him nodding, we deal with what's called MIFA, which stands for, I don't know what, uniform, you know, blah, 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 of how you account for endowments. And so you really have to be educated on how to keep track of all of this. And Michelle did a fantastic job in all 3 of these areas. It took a tremendous amount of work beyond what she would normally do in her position. And so that's why I stood up when we were all clapping for her, because this year she just shined. And to have a CPA on our staff doing this work is amazing. And I have nothing but kudos for her. We should be proud to have her on our staff. So, bottom line, we should be proud of ourselves. We're on solid ground, and we're moving forward into the future with good financial records and good procedures. Thanks very much.
And Dennis, am I right? No? Judith, sorry, darling. See, Ritzville, the heart of the conference, the center of the conference. To talk briefly about the bylaws change.
Very briefly. Hello, I'm Judith Reinhardt Nelson. I am pastor and member of Zion Philadelphia in Ritzville. I am also a member of the board. We bring before you a proposed bylaw change, which what we would like, back in 2002, you voted to make the vice moderator and the moderator position 1 year. In that 12 years, we have found there have been occasions when to have the moderator and the vice moderator stay on for another year would have helped in the work of the conference. And so we are asking that we amend the bylaws to have the past moderator, or the moderator and the vice moderator have the option, not mandatory, but have the option of serving another year. But this would not make the past moderator position have to go on longer. They would continue at just staying at 1 year. So that's what we will be talking about in hearing 3. Thank you.
And you know what's really funny about that? Say what? Yeah. Welcome home. Yeah.
And only if you want to.
And yes, it's not required. It is an option. So you've heard briefly now. Dee Eisenhower, where are you? There she is. I've had a request. So you want to come up to a mic and make your suggestion to the body? And you will tell us what to do about it.
Maybe. Dee Eisenhower, Eagle Harbor Congregational United Church of Christ, Bainbridge Island. My suggestion is, since the bylaw change to which I am assigned seems to me somewhat non-controversial, that we might have a little extra time, that we might use hearing group 3 to also discuss the resolution that came to us about background checks for gun purchases. That's my suggestion.
So, you're talking about modifying the hearing.
I don't see any particular parliamentary problem with that, as long as people have the opportunity to talk about the bylaws change if people want to.
Oh, well, take that!
Yeah,
now he's going to put up a snarky slide about the parliamentarian.
Tom Sorensen, Monroe Congregational United Church of Christ, parliamentarian. I think it's fine as long as at that hearing people do initially have an opportunity to speak to the bylaws amendment, because I know I was assuming that the gun background check resolution was non-controversial, and was told frankly that I was wrong about that. So you can't really assume that everybody's just going to be on board with things.
Right. And you have gotten the background check resolution. It was stuffed into the packets, I kid you not, yesterday morning at 10 a.m. before you all showed up at 11 a.m. So it's in there, and I guess just by a show of cards, I'm going to ask, is it the will of the body that the hearing number 3, which is about the bylaws change, also take on the opportunity of discussing the gun background checks resolution? If you are in favor of this, please raise your cards. Anybody opposed to this notion? Anybody want to abstain from this notion? Well, okay then. It sounds like the 3rd hearing, which is to talk about the bylaws change, and Judith will be facilitating that conversation. Dee, I notice how you're walking away. Now that this is your great idea, will you be helping to facilitate the conversation with, yeah. Okay, Dan and Diane. Okay, so stand up, kiddos. So behind, in the very back, hiding away, Diane Darling and Dan Kennedy, whose names are on this resolution. We'll also be facilitating that conversation. You want to find out what room you're going to be in, okay? Choir room? Okay, okay, super cool. We do have a number of guests who have been given voice without vote, and one of our guests is the Reverend Paul Benz from the Faith Action Network, and he's going to share with you for just a few minutes about the funny, since the Faith Action Network is one of the groups behind this resolution as well. Anyway, come on up, Ben. Paul.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be here at the PNC UCC gathering. You are our terrific advocates and colleagues in our fight for a fairer, more equitable, sustainable world, country, state, communities. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to be with all of you yesterday doing a workshop and then today too, and I will be around for the conversation in the choir room as well on your resolution regarding how in the world can we prevent further gun violence. So you see on the screen there, thank you, my good friend, for putting that up. That is the homepage of our website. FAN, if you don't know, actually is just not even 3 years old yet. On June 11th, we'll be celebrating our 3 years. We are the union of the Washington Association of Churches. How many remember the Washington Association of Churches? Terrific statewide ecumenical organization that I worked with John Boonster for many years, as well as the Lutheran Public Policy Office. We merged these two fine statewide organizations together, and now we have Faith Action Network, a statewide interfaith. That is the new dimension of our work. Advocacy is still the heart of what we do. We are about, as we say, building a movement of the faithful here in Washington State, one faith community. It was wonderful to see all of your faith communities, your congregations on the screen yesterday that you should be very proud of and that we strive to work with, and one advocate at a time to create the kind of change that I believe all of us want to see. 4 examples of that that Faith Action Network is working on or did work on in the 2014 Washington State legislative session. A world that has fewer people going hungry. Is that a world that you would like to see? Give me a UCC amen on that. The FAN advocates, as we like to call them, over 5,000 around the state in all of our 49 state legislative districts, advocated for more funding for 2 hunger programs that our state government runs. The Emergency Feeding Assistance Program, which is really money that goes to our food banks, some of whom you are involved in, and then to our Farmer Market Nutrition Program. How many go to a farmer's market here? Almost all hands are up. The WIC and Senior, Women, Infant, Children, is a really important state and federal program that FAN advocated to get more funding for. The third thing that we worked on the federal hunger issue is FAN advocates around the states asked our governor to avert the deep cuts that were coming from the other Washington regarding the SNAP program, the federal food stamp program. We were able to avert the $90 a month that would have come to around 230,000 households in this state alone. So put your hands together for the work that you all do on behalf of Faith Action Network. The second change that I just want to lift up is a change as we are, as a nation, are remembering the 150th remembrance of this nation's Civil War, where we thought slavery ended. We worked this session, Faith Action Network did, to really get our first bill. Having your own bill means that you were the lead organization from the start to the finish line, which is the governor's desk. And Senate Bill 6339 now makes it illegal for someone to hold by threat or coercion a person's immigration documents. So often this happens in what we now know as the modern slavery issue called human trafficking. It happens in this state a lot and around the country. And with all of your voices with Faith Action Network, we are fighting to try and end human trafficking. What other kind of change? The third kind of change we want to see is a more equitable, a more fairer world. This past session, believe it or not, in the halls of power where there is so much division, even in Olympia, we had a strong bipartisan vote on the DREAM Act. You all know what the DREAM Act is. Raise your hand if you know what the DREAM Act is. Put your hands together for that. Because now in this state, every young person who goes through our K-12 system has the access to our state need grant, which is the program that our state government, that we fund for kids who want to go on to higher education in this state. The last thing that I want to mention, the fourth change, is who does not here want to see a world that has less gun violence in it? Can I hear an amen on that? We hear about it every day. FAN decided last year to collaborate with the Washington Alliance for Gun Responsibility, and now a new organization, the Center for Gun Responsibility, to try and figure out how can we lessen the gun violence in our communities just in this state alone. And so we decided to support the effort to collect the signatures around Initiative 594, which is coming to your doorstep, to your mailbox in mid-October. We are supporting this initiative as a means, not any solution, but as a means to try and lessen gun violence in our communities. We have endorsement forms at our display. Please let me know if you, as any religious leaders, would like to endorse that. We give thanks for many of those that have in the PNC, and also for your faith communities to endorse this as well. FAN does its work through two networks that we invite you to join if you haven't already. The two networks that we have is our network of our statewide advocating faith communities. A faith community that says, yes, we partner with Faith Action Network along with all the other organizations that we partner with to achieve this world that we so much desire, that we are called by God to try and help make during our lifetime that God has given us on this earth, right? A more just, a more sustainable, a more equitable world. That is the basic pledge. You see some of the faith communities that are on it on the screen. The other network, right now we're at 77 strong, and we invite, if your faith community, your congregation has not joined, please see me, and we'd love to have the conversation about that. The other network, which really does the work of Faith Action Network, those four changes that I highlighted, that would not happen without our network of individual faith advocates. All of you that use your voice and say to your elected officials, this is what we need to try and create the reforms, the changes that we so much desire in our state, nation, and world. We have over 5,000 in our state. If you have not joined that, please, you can do that right on our website. Just go to the home page and you can sign up there or downstairs at our display. I want to thank you for your longtime support of advocating for social justice in the halls of power, from this conference, from each of you, for your support for Faith Action Network in your budget. And last but not least, I want to give thanks, and he didn't pay me anything to say this, is that guy right down there, your conference minister, Mike Denton. I want to thank him for his support of Faith Action Network and his leadership, his voice in terms of justice for this state and around this country. Please put your hands together for your conference minister.
Almost there. And one of the announcements I was to share with you before we break is that, hang on, here it is. There are 2 different lunchtime opportunities for the second half of lunch. If you're one of those people when Don said, now let's sing in harmony, and you went, oh yeah, let's do that? That's not me. Anyway, you're a person who wants to sing in the choir, which will be meeting from 12:45 to 1:30. It's for Sunday morning's special music. They'll be down in the choir room. And then also there's a Meet the Artist. Chris is the artist in residence for this congregation, and these are her banners. This is her work that you see. The welcome table, which is in the chapel, is also the work of Chris Garrett, and there is a Meet the Artist session if you want to talk with Chris about her work. One more no, 2. Bear with me. Thank you, good people. For 30 years, we have had the ecumenical and interfaith newspaper known as the Fig Tree. Mary, I know you're here. Where are you? Mary, right there. Mary Stamp. 30th year of the Fig Tree is being celebrated right now. So many of us know her from the Fig Tree, but she is also, of course, the writer and producer. That's not the right word. Editor for our conference news. 26 years of the conference news. So thank you for your devotion and your dedication to ecumenical, interfaith, and all of us, keeping us connected yet another way. Now, just about there. Do you have your non-sanctuary faces on? Come on. There you go. Okay. Because I have been alerted by the hardworking volunteers that there's actually a ton of cookies and coffee downstairs. The upstairs cookies have been ravaged. But there's lots of goodies downstairs, as well as, of course, all the display tables. And those who are showing downstairs would really like to see your faces. So go by, see what's showing on the tables, get a cookie, ravage the downstairs supply. And I think, John, what's up? John, you got to come up to the microphone, and you got to do that whole hi, this is my name, this is my church thing. Otherwise, we'll pretend we don't know you. Thank you.
I realize that hubris is unseemly.
Who are you?
I'm John Hughes from First Congregational Church, Walla Walla, and this year we're celebrating 150 years. We're the oldest congregational church in the state, and so I want you to be proud of how long we've been representing ourselves.
Here's to Walla Walla. One, another. But don't you, come on up to the mic.
Bob Anderson, Guaymas Island United Church of Christ Community Church. As long as we're into hubris, we're celebrating our 100th anniversary this year on the 14th of September. Anyone interested in being on what we consider God's favorite island in the Northwest, on Guaymas? It's a healing island and was formerly called Dog Island because the native Salish peoples raised long-haired dogs for making blankets, one of which from Guaymas Island is in the Smithsonian, which we found out recently in our Historical Society.
Pretty cool.
So if you'd like to be with us on the 14th of September, we'll be celebrating our 100th.
Pretty cool. This is like hearing from the relatives you haven't seen all year, Thanksgiving dinner, and everybody's kind of showing off. That's good. All right, folks, We are done with business for our third plenary. You have time to transition and then some, so don't neglect the cookies and the tables downstairs. Yeah, and if it was cake, I know that my coworker would be there in a heartbeat. The hearings, you should have the placements. As I understand it, the living wage resolution will be here in the sanctuary. The PNC UCC budget will be discussed in O Hall, and the bylaws change and the gun background checks will be in the choir room. So go with God, put your smiles on, have a cookie as you go. Bye.